It took me nearly 3 months to put together all of the parts that I needed to build the device in question. It was a long-running effort, but the time that I spent doing it wasn't spent alone. Emily and Barry would spend a great deal of time with me. Often we would hang around and talk whilst I was working. Whenever they weren't out pilfering something, they would usually come to my place, or I would go to theirs. And we would spend time talking about our future plans, ideas, dreams. It all felt very reassuring. It felt comforting to be able to talk about these things with others. In that timeline, I even managed to build us a television set, which were actually fairly hard to come by. Once again, I had to piece it together from other parts. But eventually, I got one working. And that's the first time I saw it. I managed to get it working just in time to catch the Black Label races. Of course, Emily and Barry were more caught up with the action and the explosions. Meanwhile, I was more interested in the different devices and technologies that they were using, how the energy weapons worked, specifically the Angel. The Angel of Death always had the most impressive technology, and I had a fair amount of fun trying to figure out how all of the gadgets and weaponry that it was affixed with worked. The Black Label races was one of the very few things that still broadcast on any sort of signal that could be picked up by a television. Other than that, they had only managed to re-establish a few different channels. One channel was specifically a merchant channel, in which merchants in different regions could put up advertisements for their goods. Some were farmers advertising that they had food to sell or barter. Others were transportation agencies who could transport goods from different areas of the Yellow District. And some of the most common seemed to be weapon sales, people who produced weaponry for barter and shipped through the transportation agencies. There was only really one station meant for entertainment, on which they bounced between many different types of entertainment, depending on what day of the week it was. Monday was Battle Day, in which they would go about various different rings for boxing and bare-knuckle fist fighting, wrestling, and things of that nature. Tuesday, they would focus on different types of music, from rock and roll all the way to classical, and bring various artists into a studio and allow them to play. These artists often sold tickets to performances and gave lists of where they would be traveling to perform. Wednesday was Emily's favorite day. This is when they had some sort of ongoing play with reoccurring characters. It seemed to be some sort of drama, filled with some never-ending spiral of romances one after another. Everyone in conflict with each other over who gets what girl and when. This person's in love with that person, and that person's in love with this person. But these two people are also have some other people in love with them. It was way too much of a headache for me. But Emily favored it. And every other corresponding day of the week also had its own flavor of entertainment, which all of us enjoyed watching. It definitely helped pass our time much more enjoyably than just sitting alone. And with each other to talk to, it only made it all the better. But eventually, I got through with my scanner device, and we set about traveling outside of the primary city in order to search for long-lost treasure. We did so for several weeks without any real discoveries. Mostly what we turned up were beat-up old electronics that were buried in the dirt somewhere or abandoned and collapsed old houses. Lots of them had fair amounts of use, but none of them would turn any real profit. We weren't running into any gold mines. We were out searching about 3 weeks into our quest to find hidden treasure, and Emily was beginning to grow exceptionally bored of it. "Come on, how long are we going to keep doing this?" she said to Barry. "We're not really finding anything of any real value. It seems like sort of a waste of time." "Hey, if finding buried treasure was easy, then everyone would be doing it. How successful you are at finding real buried treasure depends on how hard you're willing to work at it and how long." "I didn't say this was going to be instant, did I?" Barry replied. "You've got to relax. Give it some time. A few weeks isn't really that long. Besides, this isn't really cutting into our other work, so it's not like we're losing anything." They argued amongst each other as I followed behind them, trying to pick up signals on my device. We had started working somewhat of a grid, traveling out to the old world city where few people tended to travel. We were walking in the middle of the street, and there wasn't anything exceptionally close by, so I wasn't expecting to pick up anything. I was simply checking over the device as we were nearing the next segment of our grid, which was a segment of old world business offices, which we had hoped might have some stowed safes, something hidden away where other people wouldn't be able to find it. It was at that point that my device detected something, beginning to give off a beeping sound, which it had done many times before, but only for minor things. Once again, it was giving off a minor signal. Emily and Barry heard the beeping from in front of me, turning around and stopping for a moment. Did you pick something up again?" "What direction?" Barry said. It's probably just another old computer in one of these buildings beside us. Some of these were office buildings, remember? Lots of people working in cubicles, I think they were called. It only makes sense that there are still some scrap computers laying around." "So, is it left or right?" Emily replied, with a frustrated expression. It's neither," I said, looking at the device. "Based on what I'm seeing here, the signal that I'm picking up is coming from below us. It's under the ground. Fairly deep." "What?" Barry said as he ran back in my direction, looking at the device in my hands. I have no idea why. I'm the only one who knew how to read it. "Are you serious?" "But we're in the middle of the street. There's nothing below us but the sewer," he said, as a great big smile started to show up on his face. "That would be a great place to hide goods. The stuff you didn't want people to find." "No." "Barry, I don't like where you're going with this," Emily shouted, running up with a very concerned expression. "I'm not doing it. I am not going into a disgusting sewer." "Relax, Em. These sewers have been abandoned for hundreds of years. No one's been using them. You call a sewer because it's a place for refuse. But there's been no refuse passing through them for hundreds of years. So anything has long since dried up and gone away. There's nothing down there now but dust. Yes, dust of poop. And I don't want to step in it. It's disgusting. It'll probably still smell. I don't care if it's been hundreds of years. I don't want to go." "Hey, his device says down, so we go down, right?" Barry said, smiling, looking in between me and Emily. "Back me up here, Jax. Buried treasure is often buried. It's like that for a reason, right? I mean, whoever thinks of going down when they're looking for treasure? Who would think of checking a sewer, right?" I guess so. It seems to make some sort of sense." "No, stop agreeing with him," Emily replied, frantically trying to get us to change our minds. But Barry was fairly convincing, and I was honestly curious about what might be down there, if anything at all.